CNN Breaking News.
We begin in the Middle East, where the imminent U.S. attacks on Iran have been cancelled for now. President Donald Trump posting on Truth Social saying that based on a request from Iran and other Middle Eastern countries, quote, "I have agreed for the future benefit of the world and likewise the survival of a successful and prosperous Iran to cancel the attack, subject to being able to rapidly make a deal." President Trump's announcement comes after CNN learned that he and the Saudi Crown Prince spoke Saturday. Sources telling us that Prince Mohammed bin Salman discussed de-escalation efforts and raised concerns about the plans for new U.S. strikes on Iran. Standing by for us is Trita Parsi, Executive Vice President of the Quincy Institute for Responsible Statecraft. But first, I want to go to Vice Admiral Kevin Donegan. He's the former commander of the U.S. Navy Fifth Fleet, as well as a distinguished military fellow at the Middle East Institute. Great to have you both with us. So, Admiral, just hours ago, the U.S. appeared ready to strike Iran, with Tehran warning it could retaliate against energy infrastructure. Those strikes are now on hold. As someone who commanded U.S. Navy forces in the Gulf, is this a genuine de-escalation or simply a delay?
Well, Lynda, I think time's going to tell on that, right? This is coming at the end of what was an incredible week of what I would say was escalation, right? We had escalation by geography, where Iran attacked into Egypt, the U.S. and Saudi Arabia attacked Iranian militia in Iraq. You had the Houthis step into this in the Red Sea. And at the same time, you've had, at the culmination of 2 weeks of attacks by the United States on Iranian, basically coastal defense sites and anything that could reach into the water. At the same time, even though the MOU has failed, diplomacy has been open. So this comes as a surprise, but only time's going to tell how this holds, because we've heard both sides make statements that in the end get adjusted or aren't seen to follow through on going forward. So we'll see if indeed this statement that we saw come from the White House, as promising as it is, if that's going to hold up the test of time.
Yeah, you're right to point out that we have seen this back and forth, calling off strikes and then again striking in the past. Trita, to you, President Trump says he agreed to cancel these planned strikes after requests from Iran and other Middle Eastern countries, and is framing this as pressure, bringing Iran towards a deal. Is Tehran responding because it wants an agreement or because it wants to avoid military action?
I think the entire premise of this conversation is frankly wrong. I don't believe that there was an imminent attack. We've gone through this several times in which Trump issues these threats and then he backs off because the other side calls his bluff. As the Admiral correctly pointed out, we've seen that during this past 7 or so days, the Iranians have escalated horizontally despite a lot of beatings that they've taken. Nevertheless, they apparently have the capacity to strike at Egypt now, at U.S. ships over there. Moreover, we're seeing these cyber attacks against American water installations in the U.S., which is suspected to be behind, Iran being behind that as well. I don't know if that's true or not, but if it is a further sign that the Iranians are willing to counter-escalate dramatically. And I think the bottom line is Trump does not have an escalatory way out of this conflict. But what he is trying to do is to give the impression that he is in control, that he is in the driving seat. And I think it's been quite clear for quite some time now, he is not.
Admiral, I want to go to you on what we learnt just before Donald Trump posted that these strikes were being called off on Truth Social, that Saudi Arabia reached out to the U.S. president. The Crown Prince reached out, had a conversation with Donald Trump, of course, Saudi Arabia being one of Iran's biggest regional rivals, yet here it was urging caution. What does that tell you about how seriously Gulf leaders view the risk of escalation, and what is their biggest concern right now?
Well, I hate to put all the Gulf nations into one basket because they all have their own viewpoints on this. But what is clear, the one thing that I can say is true is they're the ones that take, the retaliation when the U.S. moves forward in any kind of military way. Now, the Iranians are significantly weaker than they were before, but they still showed tremendous resilience and ability to get certain missiles off, especially on sites that are not well protected. And I think the Gulf nations are particularly concerned about their own energy infrastructure. They also are working behind the scenes, as you know. It's not just Pakistan and the Omanis and others that are working. The Iranians. There are messages being conveyed back and forth via the Gulf nations to Iran. So, like I said before, we don't know how this is going to play out, but you can see that that the Gulf nations, especially Saudi, didn't want. They thought that there was another path, and maybe this is the one. We'll see.
And Trita, to you, why do you believe that Saudi Arabia wants restraint? What is its biggest concern?
I think the Admiral is absolutely correct. I think the Saudis, frankly, don't have confidence in any of the American military plans, and they know that that type of escalation will only lead to a counter-escalation by the Iranians, in which the GCC states will be the biggest victims. And because they don't have confidence that the U.S. has a winning military strategy, all that would lead to is more suffering for them without actually changing the facts on the ground or changing the direction of this conflict. So it's all loss, no gain.
Trita Parsi and Vice Admiral Kevin Donegan, we appreciate your time. Thanks so much for joining us at this late hour.
Thank you.